Hello, my dearies. This is Mrs. Baker's Monster Paper, Module 12. It's questions 31 to 40. I've had to put the aircon on because I was cooking in here, so I hope that the aircon isn't being picked up too loudly by the microphone here. Let's dive in. Part of the periodic table is shown. Which row describes the properties of X, Y, and Z? Well, metals are good conductors of electricity, so Y and Z are definitely going to be good conductors. So definitely not just X, definitely not just Y, definitely not Z and X. So we know already the answer is C, but let's check. High melting point, yes, because Y has a low melting point because it's a group 1, and X has a low melting point because it's a halogen. Perfect. 32. The properties of an element are shown. So its electrical conductivity is high, so that could be D, A, or C. Its density, it could actually be aluminium as well. So it could be any of them. That doesn't help us at all. Its density is low. All of the others' densities are relatively high. The lowest is D, but reacts violently with cold water. It is only D. So the answer must be D. 33. The equation shows the reaction between a halogen and aqueous bromide ions. So you've got, this is bromine as KBr in solution. So we know that the solutions of the potassium salts or the halogen salts, they are all colorless. So this one must be colorless, or it could be D. So it's definitely not C, it's definitely not A. Let's not commit to B yet. We know that this X2 as a diatomic molecule has actually displaced the bromine because this is now X as KX, whatever that is. So the only thing that's more reactive than bromine is chlorine. Iodine can't react, so we were right to circle. It is B. 34. Elements in group 1 of the periodic table react with water. Which row describes the products made in the reaction and the trend in reactivity of the elements? So they definitely make metal hydroxide. The general equation is alkali metal plus water makes a metal hydroxide and hydrogen. So we can immediately rule out 2. It's not a metal oxide and hydrogen. And then do they get less reactive down the group or more reactive? Of course, they get more reactive. So the answer is B. Part of the periodic table is shown. Which element forms an oxide that reacts with dilute acid to form salt and water? Well, if an acid is reacting with a metal oxide, the metal oxide must be a base to make a salt and water. I don't know why I was writing the word and. Silly me. And water. So it must be a basic oxide. Well, we know that basic oxides are over here. We know that this will be acidic. So the element must be C. (36) Which row describes a typical transition element? So let's go in for something that we know already. Transition elements form colored compounds. So it's not going to be A, it's not going to be B. It's going to be yellow or red. Boiling points are high. So we can immediately rule out C because this boiling point is low, this boiling point is very high. Let's double check. A high melting point as well. It's definitely not C. And the most dense on the periodic table, transition elements are dense. So process of elimination, we've got to D. The trick with these paper 2 questions is to just start on the things that you know and start eliminating things. Which row describes the properties of a transition element? Do they form colourless compounds? No, they form coloured compounds. They do have high density. Do they have low electrical conductivity or act as a catalyst? Of course they have high electrical conductivity, so the answer must be C. Which row shows the catalytic activity of transition elements and their compounds? Catalytic activity of the compounds of the transition elements is good. So it's not B and it's not D. And the catalytic activity of the transition elements themselves is good, so it's not C. The answer must be A. Both their elements and the compounds of the transition elements all are good catalysts. 39. Part of the periodic table is shown. Element Q has a low boiling point, a low density, and does not conduct electricity. Which element is Q? So low boiling point, this one would have a high boiling point, this one would have a high boiling point. Low density, well, these are relatively low, but this is definitely low. So it's between A and B, but the killer is does not conduct electricity. B is a metal, so the answer must be A. And 40, last one in this video, chlorine, bromine and iodine are elements in group 7 of the periodic table. Which statement about these elements is not correct? Does the colour get darker down the group? Yes. Does the density increase down the group? Yes. Are all gases at room temperature and pressure? No, because bromine is a liquid and iodine is a solid. Are they all non-metals? Yes. The answer, which is not correct, must be C. That concludes the, almost at the end. We've got one more video to go.